DreamHack Open is brought to you by Corsair, Monster Energy, Nice Cactus, and GGBet.
Welcome to sunny Seville, Spain, a city famed for its history, oranges, and flamenco dancing. But this weekend, it's all about the Counter-Strike. We've got 8 world-class teams ready to take to the stage for the chance to lift the glorious DreamHack Open Trophy and take the lion's share of $100,000 prize money. My name is Preshow. I will be your desk host for the duration of this action-packed weekend. And of course, I want to start off by extending a massive shout out to our sponsors, Corsair, Monster Energy, and of course, Nice Cactus. Thank you so much for joining us for the final DreamHack Open event of the year. But of course, I'm not alone up here. Joining me is the wonderful Potter and Blair. Guys, how are you doing this fine morning?
I'm doing great.
Morning.
Morning.
Yeah, it's a little chilly in here. But
surprisingly, I packed my swimming trunks and I stepped out of the airport. I'm like, yeah, not happening.
Not happening.
Yeah. Hopefully it starts heating up though. It starts warming up a little bit.
I mean, it's going to be heating up with this Counter-Strike going on because we've got some brilliant teams, we've got some good matches coming up. Are you excited for any of these in particular, Blair?
Yeah, I am. I think we have a pretty interesting mix as usual with most opens. We have some of the big names coming in. We have North, for example, who have a lot to prove. We have big we haven't seen on land quite that often. Of course, we have the big names in Crazy and of course Tricked, who are now going with the Mad Lions branding over there. So some pretty interesting teams here.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the interesting thing about the last DreamHack of 2019 this year, closing it out, is we've got 4 or 5 teams, as you mentioned, that will be disappointed walking away with anything but first place. And I think that really spices things up here.
Well, exactly. I mean, Potter, you have actually graced the stage at every single DreamHack Open of the entire year. That is an incredible feat. And I think the guys at production have a little surprise for you. Let's take a look at this lovely video they've made.
He doesn't miss, Buck. He just doesn't miss.
Somewhat rare. We do have Fitch standing by. Fitch, do you agree? James does not miss very often with the op, does he?
Yes, I agree. Hello again. So
because we have our 2 fantastic analysts, and they are Potter and Blair.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup.
She's learning.
Yeah, the other day, 2 days ago, when they played their matches, they had such
the wonderfully bald Tom Biz, and of course Potter, who is making us both feel short.
So Potter, Dave, but for now it's time to get ready for our first match of the day. Stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back.
They got a job for me over there, so let's go check it out.
Oh, hi, Potter. Can you...
Oh, he wants you.
Oh, he wants me?
who's laughing now, Jacob? It's probably us, right?
That's a good question.
No, Christine's laughing. That's who's laughing right now. We're going to be...
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, I hope that wasn't too painful for you.
Yeah, it was painful.
Yeah, well, go lick your wounds, mate. You've got a best of one later.
Did you just call us bizarre?
I had a lot of fun working with you, Potter.
I had a lot of fun working with you, Rich. I thought your
Christine was one of those people.
Don't point at me.
Yongchul-Ping, I always say it's like a Bob Ross painting. You're living in a Bob Ross painting.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Smack the devil out of it, you know?
Yes, so these are my 3 reasons, and as Matthew said, it's
like
going
you
to be
said, Christine gave us 3 reasons why, but there could be a million reasons why.
Here we are, Seville.
Oh, we're live.
Live at DreamHack Open, the last DreamHack Open of the year.
Thank you for that, DreamHack. Thank you for that. Yeah, as I mentioned, it's been an amazing year so far. We've seen a lot of up-and-coming teams. I think the DreamHack Opens are just an exciting event, especially for our CSGO scene. And being able to be here at the last event for the last DreamHack of 2019, it's an amazing experience, for sure.
Well, it isn't just the video the DreamHack guys have got for you. You've got a present.
Oh my gosh!
Oh
got
my
you
lord.
A very spectacular jumper
that's
they
nice.
thought would suit you so much.
I want that.
This is right up my alley. This is my style for sure. Dagny knows me so well.
Well, maybe we'll see you wearing it next desk segment. That is beautiful.
I actually learned at the last event that in Europe, you guys call sweaters jumpers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't call them jumpers in America.
You call things a lot of different names in America.
Yeah, I would say so. We try to be different, I think.
Very different.
But yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, DreamHack. I appreciate it.
I want you to wear that for the next segment.
Yeah, you have to. We'll force you into it.
Okay.
Well, let's start talking about our two groups for this tournament. Obviously, the last DreamHack Open of the year, and we have got some spectacular teams gracing the stage. Group A and Group B, obviously big. One of the big headlines coming through the European qualifier, followed by Movie Star Riders, Crazy and North gracing Group A, and then Group B, we'll see Gambit Youngsters, Luminar, Godsent, and as we were talking about, it was Tricks, but now Mad Lions. They've literally just rebranded minutes before we came on air. There's a lot of stacked lineups coming into this, isn't there, Blair?
Yeah, and Group A especially is a little extra stacked for me, right? You have Crazy, of course, they did win Rotterdam, they did reach, I think, became third place, if I'm not mistaken, at Winter, and now they would be, in my opinion, the favorites in this particular tournament. You, of course, have North and Big, the two big storylines for me, apart from Crazy and, well, Mad Lions now, would be they have a lot to prove. North have struggled so far. I don't think they've made a top 8 placing in like the last 3 or 4 lands. And their team, you look at that lineup, you see the players in the lineup, you expect them to be winning events like a DreamHack Open. They've been struggling quite a bit. And for Big, they haven't really played that many lands. They've had a few online results here and there, not that many big performances so far for them, with Smuya coming back in and all these, you know.
This is their first Open this year.
It's the first Open as well, and it's one of their, I think, the second LAN ever for this particular lineup, so they have a lot to prove as well. So Group A, for me, is a group to keep an eye on.
It is really odd thinking about Big and looking at the players on that roster and thinking, only 2 lands in all of 2019. We're already here in December. So it is surprising because, you know, this lineup was created and found and made hand-picked players in order to be a top contender, in order to be competitive with the best of the best in the world. So this is certainly going to be a huge proving grounds for the likes of Big to come into this tournament. And as I mentioned, first place, that's what they're vying for. If they don't get anything other than first, they're surely going to be disappointed.
Yes, exactly. I mean, obviously, we just saw the bracket coming up there. Crazy versus Movie Star Riders is going to be our first matchup. Then we'll see Big taking on North a little bit later, which I think is going to be a huge matchup. It's a proving ground, as you guys have said.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, Big North, right? That's the game of the day. I mean, if you look at Movie Star Riders against Crazy, let's be honest, Crazy are the favorites. But having said that, they've always struggled in the opening matchups in these Opens. I think the last 2, I think Rotterdam and Winter, they lost their opening matchups. So even though Crazy are the favorites, I wouldn't be surprised if Movie Star are able to steal the win away. For Big and North, you want to get that win. You want to get that win. You want to have an off day and a second day. You want to make sure that you get the playoffs immediately. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned about Crazy kind of having a slower start coming into these tournaments. We always see them on day 1 just being really cold, you know? I mean, there's talks about players having some jet lag issues, maybe not having the best sleep schedule.
It's a myth.
Hey,
it doesn't exist. Listen, it doesn't
exist. I know it exists, Play. I know it exists. I know my age kind of creeps up. It's like, which one is more relevant? But no, it's definitely a factor, I think. And these players, especially mentality-wise, coming into these tournaments, you can absolutely see it affect some teams more so than others. And I think Crazy is one of those teams that really have to go over that hurdle to make sure that they start off tournaments at their best, showing up when it matters.
Yes, exactly. And we're going to be taking a look at our first matchup, which will be Crazy versus Movie Star Riders. And we're going to be taking a look at the map veto. We were kind of speculating about this before we went on air, but what are you guys expecting from this?
I'm thinking Inferno or Mirage. I think we had a discussion on this. We're obviously going to see Overpass and Dust 2 getting taken out early on. Movie Star Riders, they're going to be taking out Dust 2, if I'm not mistaken. There we go. Overpass, the usual ban from Crazy. Bear in mind, Crazy played Dust 2 in both their openers in Rotterdam and in Winter. And they lost both those maps. So I think they're going to be okay with this going away. Vertigo and Nuke should be banned out by Crazy, if I'm not mistaken. There we go.
And we were talking about it in the green room, thinking, is Crazy going to hustle everyone? Have they been working on that Nuke? You know, behind the scenes, at the last 3 Opens in a row, we discussed Crazy's map pool coming into these tournaments. Have they worked on it? How much progress have they made? Because this is a team that's won an Open this year and made it to multiple semifinals with just a 3 or 4 map pool.
Yep.
So it is really surprising, and it's one of those questions I'm wondering, is this tournament going to be the tournament where Crazy are really exposed for having such a weak map pool?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just talking a little bit more about this matchup with Crazy and Movie Star Riders, their last 2 matches, I think they've only played each other twice ever, and it's both times been on Nuke. Is that kind of surprising that didn't come through, do you think, Blair?
Not really. I mean, I think that's Crazy making a mistake, allowing Nuke through. Nuke is a map, if you look at Movie Star Riders, their recent matchups, they haven't played that many lands, mind you, they've mostly played online, but in Best of 3 series, this is a map which Movie Star Riders like going as a pick. And Nuke is a map where for Crazy, yeah, they might have a one-off win here and there, but it's not a consistent map, right? And going to Best of 1 series, you don't want to kind of play into your opponent's potentially the best map. You want to play a map where you're pretty comfortable on. I think Inferno is a map where Crazy is very comfortable on. It's also a map that Movie Star kind of led through in a best of 3 series. So I think it's a very 50-50 map. But if I'm Crazy, I have the better players. I have the better system in place. So I'm not surprised to see Inferno coming out here.
Yeah, exactly. We can see some of the players from Crazy taking to the stage, getting warmed up. And just something that I wanted to pick up on from that previous graphic that we saw, they were ranked 18th in the world because it's such a solid showing that they showed at the Berlin Minors and Major. They really blew everybody's expectations out.
Exactly, and I mean the questions of how is this team going to bounce back with the departure of Hunter and Nexa, the 2 superstars, the heavy hitters that were on this team. They kind of made these players on this team be on the map, even thinking back all the way in the Valiant's days. Since their departure, though, however, you just saw the man on your screen there, Ships, the new young Opper, Rifler, entry fragger. He's been everywhere on the map for this team. He's been super impactful, and he's certainly the young superstar that this team is kind of molding around and trying to become a lot more successful with him.
Yeah, and not just Ships. I think he was a little bit of a surprise initially, but then he's kind of solidified his position in the team as being not just a star opener. He's such a crucial impact player in the team. He's also the best opener in for this lineup on LAN as well. But for me, the biggest surprise has been Emmy, right? Coming in from the coach to the playing role, his in-game leading role. Like, yeah, he can definitely lead, but can he fill in the fragging shoes, so to speak, for someone like Hunter or Nexa? And he's been putting in the work. He's been getting frags. He's been looking so good. And I'll be honest, once we lost Nexa and Hunter, I'm like, this team's done. It's pretty much gone. We're going to have some of the bigger teams coming in and picking apart the team, picking up Otto or, Esperanto, for example. But they've been able to surprise everyone and defy, the odds, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, another player I wanted to pick up on there was Otto. We saw him looking so good in Berlin, and it was such a surprise to everybody to see him just AWPing so consistently. Do you kind of feel that he's going to be one of the players to watch for this match?
Absolutely. I mean, his AWPing prowess for this team is certainly very impactful. One of the things that Otto has kind of been struggling with this year so far has been his consistency. He certainly shows up big and it looks flashy, it looks nice, he gets the really nice flick off shots, but sometimes those moments where the obvious shots, the obvious moments, his crossfires and his positioning is great, but then sometimes he'll miss those shots that seems like, that Opper should be hitting that, So I think consistency is something that Otto has been struggling with, but when he shows up in that server, it's spectacular for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously, as you said, Crazy have already lifted a DreamHack Open title, but interestingly, we haven't seen the same team lift a title twice this year at DreamHack Open, so do you think they could potentially be in contention for lifting it this time?
I would imagine they would, right? They are the highest rated team in this event as well, and they've been looking really good. I think the only real competition they're going to be facing off is obviously against going to be Mad Lions X-Trick. They've been looking really solid as well. But then again, looking at this group, man, I'm like, I've been a few opens this year so far. I've seen some pretty big upsets coming in. And if you look at Group A, if Big decide to show up, if North decide to play the way they're supposed to be playing, it's not going to be that easy for Crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, you can see Movie Star Riders up on screen. They're also getting ready to face up against Crazy. I think Tom was saying there was something interesting, like they've only played 10 matches with this current lineup. So do you think they're still going to be feeling each other out, still feeling how they're going to be playing?
I think this team is going to come into this tournament with a lot of emphasis on their preparation. When you look at this lineup, you think about Steele. He's a Brazilian native, and he's coming into the Spanish lineup. When I talked to Steele leading up to this tournament, he said that this is the first time he's speaking Spanish in his life since he's joined this team. And he's the in-game leader. So it's certainly going to be a challenge for him to be able to communicate properly and quickly, right? I mean, Counter-Strike is a game of milliseconds and seconds, and if you're playing to play to your preps, then the intuition kind of takes a back seat, so then the game sense and everything, it doesn't become quite as relevant. So it's going to be really important for Steele to be able to place his players in optimal positions. And I think it's going to be challenging, especially because Spanish isn't his native tongue.
Which is interesting, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, like, as a Brazilian, you do speak Portuguese. Their variation of Portuguese. And coming into a team, speaking a different language, albeit it is kind of similar as well. And he's been in-game leader, like you mentioned, Potter. It's not going to be that easy. And looking at the results, it hasn't been looking that clean either. They've had a lot of online games. Good results online, but the caliber teams have faced off hasn't been that great. The one LAN they played was Omen, the Omen Atlantic Challenge last month, where they played against Heretics and Daytona. and they came third there. Like just with 4 teams, it didn't look that impressive. They won just 3 maps so far on land. So this is going to be a real test for these guys.
And that's the thing, right? It's when it's preparing with your team and getting better and progressing together. Yeah, sure, that's the easy part for these guys because, you know, they can take their time. He can figure out, you know, Google Translator and figure out exactly what the words he's trying to look for. But when they're in that server, when it's live, when Steel has to make an adjustment, when he has to make an audible call, when he's trying to figure out how to win that game in that server, Spanish, you know, it's going to be hard for him to communicate that properly across to his team.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, talking about that kind of pressure that he's going to be facing, do you think there are any particular players that he's going to be relying upon in that server from Movistar?
Well, firstly, himself, because he is the highest rated player for this lineup on LAN, which is surprising as an in-game leader as well. So we know Steel can definitely frag if, you know, if it goes his way. But I think the 2 main players, the 2 main names here, obviously Lowell, right? He's been a player who's been on everyone's radar for a while, ever since he used to play with Mixwell. And he's been kind of middle of the ground. He hasn't really been the star player we expected him to be in this particular lineup. And the second player for me is Eastor with the AWP. He's been pretty solid. Like you talk about Otto on the crazy side, we expect him to be a solid, like a rock for the team. You want that to be the case for Eastor as well. And they have this another player, Alex, who is kind of like, he can do everything. He's a rifler, he's also the highest rated player overall for this lineup, and it can also, you know, pick up the secondary up if needed. So it's going to be primarily Alex and Lowell in my books who need to really step up here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, something we didn't mention about Movistar Riders is obviously they qualified through the Iberian qualifier for this exact event. And I think that's what's so cool about DreamHack Opens is that sort of basing on the regions and who's qualifying through the regions for each spot. I think that's a kind of cool element to it. It's nice for them to play in front of their home crowd.
It definitely is. And I mean, Bled mentioned that these guys have only been in a couple of lands, and you said 10 days of practice, but they've been on the grind. If you look at their events, the qualifiers, the online cups that these guys are participating in, since September, since this lineup has formed, it is just stacked, event after event, qualifier after qualifier. So they're certainly on the grind. They're trying to figure it out, trying to figure out exactly what the identity of this team is going to be.
But exactly, and I think it is time to get into our predictions for this first best of 1. Posa, I'm going to start off with you. Who are you going to be going with?
I'm going to have to say Crazy, although I am very excited to see what Steel brings. Like I said, I think the emphasis is going to be heavily on the preparation and exactly how they want to identify as a unit. But I'm going to go with Crazy. They should be able to win this. And if they don't, I wouldn't be surprised.
You wouldn't be surprised. It's an opening match of Crazy. I really think Movistar Riders have a chance because it's the best of 1. You know, and let's be honest, this veto was pretty easy to read. You knew it was going to be either Inferno or Mirage, and Movistar Riders, they allowed Inferno through. That means they have a game plan. But man for man, I just think Crazy are the better team overall. So Crazy it is for me.
Yeah, I think I'm also going to join you there with Crazy going through in this best of 1. But I think it's an interesting point that you kind of pick up on there, talking about Inferno being the opening map. And you said that Movistar Riders probably read this, and we were talking about it's so important for them to be preparing coming into this. Do you think they might have some tricks up their sleeves?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and that's one of the advantages coming in as an underdog into a tournament like this. We've mentioned Crazy had their rise throughout this year. They've attended 7 DreamHack Opens this year, almost as many as I have. So they've certainly been around the block. There's a lot of intel, a lot of information that Movistar Riders can rely upon to prepare. And as Bled mentioned, the maps, it was kind of obvious that Inferno, the train, it was either going to be one or the other on these maps. So I think Steel had a really good idea, and I'm crossing my fingers for these guys.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what are you kind of expecting from Crazy Blair coming into this?
I mean, they have played quite a bit of Inferno in the past couple of Opens. They've looked really good at it as well. And here's the thing, like, as long as they don't... I'm expecting a little bit of anti-stratting coming in from Movistar, to be very honest. They obviously have more information to work with against Crazy, but as long as they just stick to their game plan, the textbook, as long as it works out, as long as the players like Otto, for example, Esperanto, just do what they do usually, it just should work out. I don't think... I'm expecting Movistar to be a little bit more gimmicky in their approach, maybe in the T side, for example, maybe a little bit of hyper-aggression on the CD side, but as long as they stick to their game plan, nothing too crazy, it should work out.
And I think we're going to have a really good tell right from the get-go. Esperanto plays towards that mid, towards the lane side on A bomb site, and he's got that M4A1S. And when you watch a player playing with this silenced rifle, you can precisely see, is he feeling good? Is his headshot percentage on point? Is he, is he going to be on fire during this match? And I think we're going to be able to tell within the first 5 rounds right away towards that A bomb site how Crazy are feeling, how Esperanto is feeling.
Well, I think that's very interesting because we just saw the Twitch chat vote coming up on screen. Actually, they totally disagree with us. 64% are going with Movistar Riders. So a pretty split opinion.
A lot of Spanish fans in the Twitch chat early on.
That's a normal Twitch chat voting. I'm not surprised. I'd be surprised if they actually favored Crazy, to be honest.
Yeah.